I just want to start off on behalf of the entire court staff and presiding judge, Tiffany Soros. I'd like to welcome you all on this very happy occasion. My one wish would have been that Judge Rose could have been in attendance with us, but we know that he is here with us today in spirit. I'd like to thank Mayor and City Council members who supported this endeavor in honoring Judge Charles Rose for his many years of service to the judiciary, city, and citizens of Thornton. It has been a privilege to be a part of this journey with you all. So let's begin as we dedicate this moment and get ready to unveil the naming of the court building, the Charles J. Rose Courthouse. Today's program will last about an hour, with Mayor, judges, and Judge Rose's son, Jason, sharing their remarks. First, I'd like to introduce Mayor Jan Kulmann to say a few words. Mayor.
Thank you all, and thank you all for joining us today on such a beautiful day to recognize a beautiful person from our community. And Diane, thank you so much for including us in this event today. I, as well as my colleagues on City Council, would like to thank the court for their efforts in bringing the naming of the courthouse in honor of Judge Charles Rose to our attention. I'm glad we were able to do it, and I'm excited for today's unveiling of the courthouse's new name. Judge Rose contributed 33 years of service to this community, from 1988 through 2021. In 1992, Judge Rose was appointed Presiding Judge. He guided the growth of the Thornton Municipal Court from a part-time to a full-time court as the city grew from a population of 50,000 people to well over 144,000 people. In 2006, Judge Rose became the first full-time presiding judge for Thornton. Judge Rose actively supported new programs such as a mediation program, Juvenile Diversion, Juvenile Graduated Sanctions, as well as other community service programs. He also served as vice president and president of the Colorado Municipal Judges Association and remained involved in the organization to improve the quality of justice prevailing in the municipal courts throughout the state of Colorado. Judge Rose was well respected in the legal community. He leaves a legacy of integrity, fairness, and empathy, both on and off the bench. And we are grateful for his many years of service and judicious performance doing what he loved. On a personal note, I had the honor of getting to know Judge Rose during my time on council and then as the mayor. And he was always extremely professional, no matter the circumstances. I also had the opportunity to observe a few of his cases in court. One day in particular stands out to me. He was presiding over some juvenile cases online, and one of the young men was having a very hard time understanding the options presented to him. Judge Rose was careful to make sure that the person felt heard, had some time to talk with others off camera, and was able to ask any question that would help him feel more comfortable. And I knew firsthand that Judge Rose was not a fan of online court. And he felt that it lost that personal touch and that nuance of what could be a really challenging situation. He made sure that this barrier was not an issue for the juvenile. It was a lesson in patience for me as well, and one that I take with me. It was an honor to know the judge, and I'm proud of the legacy that he leaves behind with the city of Thornton. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kulmann, and thank you again to you and City Council for making this possible. Now I'd like to introduce Presiding Judge Tiffany Soros to come up and say a few words. Judge Soros was appointed as Presiding Judge in March of this year. Since that time, she has been a leading supporter of the court's efforts in naming of the courthouse, an added contributor of why we are able to have this moment today. Thank you, Judge.
Tonight's events are going to be filled with many thank yous because there is much gratitude for how all this came to fruition, to include all of you taking the time to be here today, the City Manager's Office for their unwavering support, Thornton City Council for unanimously and zealously approving the renaming of the courthouse, to our court administrator, Diane Maes, for championing all of this, and for everyone who made this possible tonight, from maintaining the flowers to setting this up and the beautiful plaques. Before I speak of Judge Rose, the public servant, I want to address Chuck, the person. Prior to my dad's passing, he sent me a poem that I want to share with you. At birth, we boarded the train and met our parents, and we believe they will always travel on our side. However, at some station, our parents will step down from the train, leaving us on this journey alone. As time goes by, other people will board the train, and they will be significant, i.e., our siblings, friends, children, and even the love of your life. Many will step down and leave a permanent vacuum. Others will go so unnoticed we don't realize they vacated their seats. This train ride will be full of joy, sorrow, fantasy, expectations, hellos, goodbyes, and farewells. Success consists of having a good relationship with all passengers, requiring that we give the best of ourselves. The mystery to everyone is we do not know at which station we ourselves will step down. So we must live in the best way, love, forgive, and offer the best of who we are. It is important to do this because when the time comes for us to step down and leave our seat empty, we should leave behind beautiful memories for those who will continue to travel on the train of life. Chuck, the father, family man, traveler, friend, and colleague, will always be so dearly missed. To Judge Rose, the public servant, as stated, he started his judicial service with the city of Thornton in 1988. If he presided over 50 cases a week throughout his career, that's 85,800 cases, almost 100,000 defendants. Granted, in our business, we see many frequent flyers, but this is an enormous impact on a community. 33 years in any career is remarkable, let alone the call to service from the bench, presiding over municipal ordinance violations where you have the privilege and responsibility of tailoring your words, your approach, and your sentence to each particular individual before you in an effort to create that platform from which the launching begins. This is an extraordinary amount of dedication and commitment to the law and community in which he served. I also want to speak of the team at the court, some of whom worked with Judge Rose for over 2 decades. You have heard me say that you have struck the incredible balance of honoring him and welcoming me. He was so fortunate to work with all of you, an amazing team that I am so blessed to be a part of. It is a privilege to follow his legacy and commitment of service to the court, city, and citizens of Thornton. There is a quote, it says, "I never really thought of community service as a moment, but it is." That's 33 years of moments for the court, its staff, for Judge Rose, and for all the individuals who appeared in his courtroom. Judge Charles J. Rose, thank you for being on our train, and we are incredibly honored to have our building named after you. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. We are truly grateful to you. Thank you. Next, I would like to have our Associate Judge, Kristin Brown, come up to say a few words. Judge Brown has been our Associate Judge here in Thornton for nearly 14 years. She has been a delightful colleague and close friend to both Judge Rose and court staff. In 2021, upon the declining health of Judge Rose, Judge Brown was one of our associates who helped ensure the court would continue providing coverage of the necessary courtroom proceedings. In August 2021, after Judge Rose's passing, Judge Brown agreed to serve as acting presiding judge until a new presiding judge could be appointed. She was our strength during the time and served in this capacity with professionalism and respect for the position and circumstances under which she had accepted to perform in the interim. Judge Brown.
I'm incredibly nervous, but I know Chuck is here guiding me. As Diane said, I have worked for the court for almost 15 years. I actually started as an employee of the city before that, probably 5 to 10 years before that, in the capacity of special prosecutor. When the prosecutor's office had a conflict of some sort, I would step in and handle those cases. So my initial knowledge of Judge Rose was as a litigator before him. And then when I was added to the associate judge list many years ago, I got to know him on a different level as a colleague. And we spoke many times at the conferences, as judges do. He became one of my go-to people, judges that I would reach out to when I had questions, which was frequently as a new judge. And until his death, I reached out to him frequently. I always trusted his opinion, his wisdom. He was always generous with his time, and always added an appropriate humor when talking with him about cases. He was an amazing jurist. He was bright. He had an amazing attention to detail. He listened thoroughly. He was thoughtful in his rulings. He cared about incomes with people and their cases. The job didn't define the man. He carried no ego. He was always humble, and he always worked really well with court staff. He was an amazing leader. And that is shown in his close friendship with many of his staff. As we know, he was very much a people person. He would ask you about your family, your travels, what was going on in your life every time you saw him, and he really cared. We all know that he had a deep passion for travel and traveled 18 countries, I think, with Jason. One of the fun things about covering as an associate judge was just entering his office and seeing all the photographs on the walls of all of his travels, with elephants and, just amazing photos, and you really felt like you were living vicariously through those photographs. He was a great storyteller and often told of his rich experiences. He had a deep love for his family and his dogs. He was really a genuine person, a salt of the earth kind of man. And I know many of us still deeply miss him and always will. This dedication honors him as a judge and a person. His commitment to the court, his leadership, and his work of 33 years as presiding judge of the court and for the city, he would be honored and, in a very humble way, very proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Brown. We are truly thankful for all you have done and continue to do for the court. To say a few words, I'd like to invite Judge Charles Peters up to the podium. Judge Peters is our current president of the Colorado Municipal Judges Association, as well as one of our associate judges. He, too, assisted greatly this past year to ensure continued courtroom coverage when Judge Rose was unable to do so. Prior to this, Judge Peters also served for many years as one of our Thornton's court-appointed attorneys. He was a dear friend and colleague of Judge Rose. Judge Peters?
I cannot even begin to tell you how blessed I have been to have known Chuck Rose for so many years. Not only as a friend, but also a colleague and a professional. I benefited deeply in all those categories from him. I only had a few years as an attorney when I started coming out here to Thornton. And so I would watch him on the cases where I was court-appointed counsel on it. I would see how he would treat people, all the things he'd be concerned about and everything. I just assumed, judges was, okay, you're guilty, here's your fine, there's the door, and that was it. But not Chuck. He would ask people and everything about, hey, what's going on here? Why did you, when you shoplifted, why did you take food? Everything, as opposed to CDs or something like that. He wanted to know the story behind it, whether they were having food problems, housing problems, clothing problems, or what. So he would inquire into it so that he could advise them, were there services available to you so we don't have to see you in court. That is one of the things I stole from him and I use inside my interactions with people, especially like theft or some other thing where I think something is going on in the background. So I can inquire as to that. I also saw that he was so fair with people and so nice. I saw him, he had patience like you would not believe. I saw him, and thank goodness he had patience with my clients, but I would see him give people 3, 4, 5 different chances, everything on the same thing. And then I'd be like, wow, that's amazing. I always thought judges were like, okay, you're going to prison, that's it, period. And so, but not Chuck, he cared about people. I benefited not only professionally, but also personally. Some of you heard the story, so I'm not going to repeat the whole thing, but I am convinced if it wasn't for Chuck, I would not be here today. I got interested in being a judge. I had applied some places. I got turned down. I mean, zero experience. And so Chuck told me about another position that was open. So he kept asking me, are you going to apply there? I'm like, nah, I'm not going to, I don't care to it. But as I kept coming here, he would ask me, he says, have you applied yet? Have you applied yet? And finally, just to get him to be quiet, I told him, I said, I'm going to. So I applied and told him that I applied and everything. And, with my huge resume of zero experience and everything, I got selected for the job. So I'm sure it was more than just Chuck let me list him as a reference. I have no doubt that he made a phone call or email or something on my behalf. So I am forever grateful to him that I am able to be a municipal court judge here. One of the, as was noted, I'm president of the Colorado Municipal Judges Association, but it is such a great organization, and one of the reasons it's so great was Chuck's dedication to the municipal courts. He loved the municipal courts. He was a president and the pastor of the Municipal Judges Association. He helped form the municipal courts. Thank you. But he helped, and that was a salute to Chuck. But he helped form the municipal courts into what they are nowadays. Without him, we'd be a different municipal court system. Kristin stole some of my thunder. One of the things I really enjoyed when I'd come here as a relief judge was I'd go into his office and see all the pictures of the travel that he had done. I love to travel also, and I used to stand there, even if I'd been here 20 times, I'd think, I've been there, I want to go there, and see if I could somehow compete with him about that. He was so much more than just a judge and everything. He was a true person. He loved to travel. He loved traveling with Jason on there, and as you know, he loved his dogs and other animals and stuff on there. He was just one fantastic person. I couldn't believe when they called me and asked me if I'd speak at this dedication to the building. I was like, are you kidding? I said, of course I will, because Chuck just deserved all of that. And I know everybody here wearing the robes, and everybody else has benefited from Chuck as a judge and as a person. And to give you an idea about that, the staff who's standing over there, I started coming out here about 2005 as a conflict court-appointed counsel, and the majority of the people I see over there were here when I started coming in 2005, and that's what kind of court he fashioned, was to that all the people hung around. And finally, to show you how much he loved this court, when he got cancer, there was issues going on where there was conflict between the city and the court. I think Chuck loved this court so much that even though he was so sick from his treatment and everything, he stayed here because he wanted to make sure that everything that happened to the court was the right thing. So you could not pick a better person to name this courthouse after, because Thornton Municipal Court is Chuck Rose. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Peters, for your kind words and being a part of this occasion today. We appreciate your service as an associate judge, friend, colleague, and leading the charge in representing Colorado Municipal Courts through the Municipal Judges Association. Thank you for all you do. One of our final speakers who wanted to take this moment to briefly say a few words to everyone is Judge Charles Rose's son, Jason Rose. Those of us in court have a dear place in our heart for Jason and his wife, Abby. I've known Jason for over 20 years and listened to many stories of his growing up from Judge Rose and seen him grow over time as well. It is within this last year that I and court staff have grown closer to him and Abby Rose. He is an extension of this work family. Jason.
As I look out upon the audience today, I'm extraordinarily proud to stand here at this dedication service as the son of Charles Rose. I, of course, would be remiss if I did not thank each and every one of you for attending this evening. and none more so than Diane and the court staff. All these people, past and present, who supported my dad and loved my dad and made this dedication possible. I'd also like to thank and acknowledge my uncle for flying out to celebrate with us today. It's wonderful to have you here. Likewise and instantaneously, grief seeps in. I've lost one of the personified foundations in which I've stood, where many of us have stood. Joined in connection with my father, we are here at this moment only because of his absence. And still, his current distance between me, between you, is only as far as we make it. This structural epitaph compresses those intervals and decisively declares his effect. My dad loved being here. He loved working here. And even though there was rough patches, he loved his job. But even more so, he loved the people who he worked with. This attitude was no late acquisition. It was with him from the beginning of his practice. He wanted to help, and he wanted to shape and teach. And yes, castigate, if in the names of the aforementioned. I mean, he was a judge. But he took it to heart, and he took to heart the notion that one who is genuinely educated is one who has learned to grow and change. And what is most personal is most universal. These lessons guided him in life and at work, constructing a phenomenological approach in which he led to the courtroom. I know he would be undeniably astonished at this enduring gesture to his honor, and to this honoring his hand in shaping the city, and those memories, personal and professional. And then he'd shrewdly comment on the side, "Damn right." So, moreover, and more selfishly, I grew up here, and in the building before it. When I was sick as a little kid, I used to fake being well, just so that I didn't have to come sit in court. But it holds something different now, another location on earth physically touched, shaped, and now dedicated to the memory and influence of my dad, Charles J. Rose, a purposeful and metaphorical living and breathing borrow. Solemnly, the spirit of one is constructed out of their choices. Live right and have assurances that good things will flow from you, even if you never learn of them. A reoccurring sentiment for my dad, and this is just another pronounced example of that. Thank you for allowing me this moment to speak and mark this commemorative occasion on behalf of my father.
Thank you, Jason. And we honor you and Abby this evening as well. Your father was a wonderful man. We all respected, and we know he loved very much being a judge for the community of Thornton. Now, with further ado, I would like to thank again all of our speakers and all of you who are in attendance here today. Let's officially unveil the courthouse signage, naming it the Charles J. Rose Courthouse.